You may have played poker, but playing poker in Texas is a different animal. This is the Texas Poker Podcast with Tyler and Clint.
Hello, this is the Texas Poker Podcast. I'm Tyler. This is Clint.
What's up, y'all?
And we are back with episode 94. And today we bring you a Valentine's edition.
Yeah. So everybody knows kind of our podcast is basically me and Tyler just going over the sessions, going into the interesting situations we find ourselves in the kind of in the poker world. We mix some strategy with just some kind of like storytelling and BS.
Less strategy, more storytelling of what happened in the experience of the Texas poker.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because you can get strategy a lot of other places.
And way better strategy. I mean, I have a hand in here that, I mean, if you were paying me for strategy, we just have to give you all the money back.
Well, we've all had a couple hands go off the rails. So we kind of thought for this Valentine's Day. So I am fairly newly single, and then you are as well. And how poker kind of relates to like the dating world. Because, so Tyler talked me into doing the speed dating event. And I end up going on there. And I always think of poker as like a good thing. Like I meet a ton of interesting people playing poker. I get a ton of like different experiences I would not get if I didn't have it. So I think of it as nothing as but a positive. I have noticed, I mean, if you want to shut somebody down, that you bring up poker as something that you like to do, I mean, it is maybe the worst thing you could say. I mean, have you noticed this when you're kind of out in the scene, Tyler?
Oh, I mean, when I tell people, one, I do a podcast, they say, like Andrew Tate's podcast? I say, what? and then I tell them, and it's about poker. And then, I mean, 100% just shuts down everything.
Coming into it, I thought it was so shocking because I was like, well, I've gone to seen different concerts at a casino when I was like, we're just going there for the poker. I try to travel a lot, and I do, and the poker's the main reason I travel, but I'll do other things. So I thought of it as something that just people would be fascinated by and really enjoy as something that, you do. But man, I tell you what, once you get out of that poker community, it is rough.
Here's a question for you. So not just in, the dating poker, but I've noticed a lot of people find poker as just straight up gambling, right?
Correct.
So what percent of the population, like you're going to pull this percent out, but do you think gambles? It has to be over 50, right? I mean, do you think?
No, it's way under 50, I think.
So you see, I think maybe that's the issue, because I'm sure you're right? Because you're running the issue that you're talking to the 70% of people who don't gamble and just look at poker as pure gambling, and they don't gamble, so they don't even know the difference.
Let's say this. Also, I think more men gamble than women, right?
Yes. Well, what about slots? I mean, I consider slots more gambling than poker myself.
Oh, no, 100%. But I do feel like men are more prone to it. Like I'd say like 3 men for every 1 woman, right?
Yeah. I mean, I can't argue that, so.
So, yeah, it's I guess like I can understand it from that point of view if you think it's just like straight gambling. You hear all the horror stories associated with gambling. If that's what I guess goes through people's mind. It was so shocked. I mean, recently that speed dating thing, I just quit mentioning poker after like the 4th person because it was just a shit show. And then so I don't do these apps at all, but Tyler convinced me to do the Facebook one online. I was talking to this one girl, and she's like, what do you do for fun? And I name like 9 things. I have a lot of interest. Poker is like in the middle, tucked in there. It's not standing out. So the response I get back is, all that sounds great, But except for poker, which is, I just don't understand how people their hard-earned money, like, and you could tell it just was a huge turnoff on there.
Clint's like, I don't even play that much. I couldn't even do my 20 hours a week last year.
I mean, yeah, this is the least of your worries on this. I honestly can't even seem to get myself to the table to get the content for the podcast some weeks because I'm working so much. But yeah, it's just such a weird, it's something that going into single life, I was like, this would be, anything that makes you more interesting, different, to stand out, I usually think is a good thing. I would have never realized how this is kind of perceived out in that world there.
Yeah, no, I think, you started tracking poker because of that stigma, right? That you're just gambling, losing money all the time.
That's actually a really good point.
I was about to say, because a lot of times when I was talking to people about poker, I wouldn't show them the literal app, but I would tell them, it's gambling in that exact moment, but it's over a long period of time. It's gambling with an edge, which has made a certain amount of money, or at least, money over the long term.
Well, yeah, because I started tracking when I first got married. And the big thing was I didn't realize how it was perceived. And if there was ever a question on like what you're doing with your money, you're throwing it away. Because I've seen people be married and like you'll win like $1,000 one week, lose $200 the next, and then the only thing that's remembered is the $200 you lost. So I was like, well, I'll track and make sure this, my wife knows, hey, the money, this is where the money's coming from. This is how much it's cost, either how much I'm making or how much it's costing me to play in the long run and all that. I tell you what, did not do anything. I mean, it was great for me as far as learning like exactly how much money I was making. Did not make a dent on anyone else. I mean, nobody gives a shit.
Didn't it help, though, whenever you won a few tournaments or had big scores? Didn't you say that was kind of a big turning point for that?
I do think that helped, but it didn't really... That helped more so than the steady cash game, which is kind of weird coming from, everybody who listens to this is going to know poker and realizes that a tournament is basically you're getting lucky at that given time, and cash games are more steady and more relied upon. But I will say in that, it seems like the average person who doesn't play poker can wrap their head around a tournament, but not the cash game.
One that kind of, helped me, not with dating, but with the stigma with family, right, was whenever I was still living at home when we started playing poker, bringing back the money, right, having to go open up another bank account because you can't leave that kind of cash at the house. People seeing that money that you're bringing home, seeing it really puts kind of a reality to it.
I mean, I tell you what, it's kind of tough to do that when you just start dating, when you're just trying to go on the first date, though. That's
I mean, true, for the Valentine's Day. Yeah, but I was just...
yeah.
I was like, just walking around with this poker bankroll.
Yeah.
I'm off to the bank.
Yeah.
But, I was just saying that stigma, though, of the gambling, that I've noticed that was a turning point for me. Kind of how you were talking about the turning point for you was tracking it. Actually bringing home that money and, having lots of money to show for it really helped.
Yeah. So here's the question is, how do you combat this? Do you just not mention the poker until you've started talking to somebody? Or is that, you really have to bring it up because it is kind of a big part of what we do?
I guess I'll tell you what I do. I normally bring it up lightly, but as things become more serious, I definitely don't hide it, because if you end up in a relationship with that person and you're already playing poker before you're in the relationship, it's kind of what they signed up for, right?
Ideally, yes.
No, it's exactly what they signed up for. This is what you do. They already know going into it.
Oh, no, you're 100% right. I'm not sure. That logical doesn't always go into the thought process of everybody. So, but you're 100% right. Because your biggest thing is honesty, right? Is you're just being honest about what you do, kind of how you spend your time and all that.
Correct.
It's so it's kind of a. I mean, I will say it is kind of a different because me and you look at it more as like an income, like a side job.
No, 100%. I can think of how many sessions am I going to cover? Two or three times. I didn't want to go play this time.
It's very hard to explain to the average person, though. Like this is a stream of steady income or anything like that. So also going into a new relationship, you also got a time factor of, me and you both, we don't do poker professionally, so we have a 40-hour-a-week job. At times where it doesn't even really, that's in itself its own problem because we work kind of weird hours. And then let's say we're getting 10 to 15 hours a week. Now, my go-to's always been like, well, you should be able to do 55 hours a week at a regular job and still have enough time for everybody was kind of my thinking.
Right. But my argument was always, for that argument of yours, was when you're in a relation. Well, you're still talking about dating, but I'm in a longer term relationship. That if you that time spent away, normally both parties would see a benefit. But if it's just going right into your poker bankroll, it's not exactly the same as working 55 hours at your job.
That is true. Because, we've run into this a couple times it's what you're doing with the poker. Because I ended up like probably about 4 months ago doing a lot of overtime. And, well, my overtime pay is bigger than my poker bankroll. But the bigger part of it was when I would do overtime, it goes straight into my checking account. When I win at poker, I'm still not taking out a lot of that money. It's still just all going into that poker bankroll so I can grow it and play in bigger games and make more money. So, which is great for the long run, but in the short run does not really help me at that exact moment. So, you're right. It kind of is. It's hard to tell somebody like, well, this is the income and I'm making money and that's what it is. But also, it's not going into the checking account that helps anything. So.
And you're also like, and I'm poor.
Yeah, exactly. I have lots of money and I'm making money, a lot of it, but also have none.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think it's kind of that fine line and kind of finding a balance. But I do think them knowing what they're getting into early is better than later.
Oh, I 100% agree.
Especially if it's a deal breaker, save everyone some time.
Yeah.
Get you back on the table.
Yeah. Well, I think honesty is always going to be the best policy. In the relationship, and this is a horrible. I tell you what, nobody take relationship advice from me. I'm recently divorced. If you're taking relationship advice from me, I don't know what to tell you. It's like it'd be like taking nutrition advice from someone who's 450 pounds.
Yeah, I was thinking because earlier in the podcast, I was going to tell you what I said in my relationship. I was like, you don't want that.
Yeah, really, like we're speculating about what might work or what we might try or help, but none of this is proven. All of this is.
Well, wait. It is proven that it hasn't worked out well for you.
Yeah. Well, actually, if anything, you should do the opposite of what I'm doing.
Yeah. So, happy Valentine's.
Yeah. Happy Valentine's. Yeah. It's but it's just kind of a weird. It was just a weird blur because I just got like way different reactions than I would have thought. I would have never thought that going into something. So it was, and like I say, just thinking about how poker affects your life and like the other areas because it's all one giant balance.
No, absolutely. What are you going to try? I told you what I do. Are you going to adjust your strategy or are you just going to keep on letting it burn?
I think I'm just going to keep on letting it burn. Like you say, I still think honesty, like regardless of my past results, I still think that's honesty is the best policy in this. And, it's hopefully you find that right person who just really kind of understand, like they kind of get behind and understand. Making your goals known, and you have to have kind of similar goals and be on the same page, or it's not going to work out in the long run anyways.
Absolutely. Well, I guess I played a session on Valentine's Day.
Oh, well, that's pretty interesting.
I'll tell you what, not many games on Valentine's Day.
Well, a lot of guys ended up not single, and ended up having to go to those restaurants. I tell you what, not going out on Valentine's Day, that's fine with me. I'm okay with that part of being single.
Well, all right. Here's my first hand for you. I get ace queen in early position. I make it 20. I get 2 callers, 3 ways to the flop. The flop comes 7, 10, 10. It checks around.
Ooh. Okay, you're in early position, ace queen, you bet 20. I thought this would be a great time for a small bet, because, you're probably going to be ahead a good portion of the time with ace high on this flop, right?
Yeah, but I checked this time.
Okay.
The turn is a king of hearts. I now, one of the, someone in the small blind leads up for $5, which it was, $60 pot.
Okay.
I only call.
100%. This is... Yeah, I love this. I like this call a lot.
The guy behind me calls.
Okay.
The river is a jack of diamonds, so now I have an ace high straight.
Ace high straight, okay.
She now bets 80. And I was thinking it's a snap call, right?
I think you can argue a raise here.
Well, no. So, but you're definitely
never folding.
Okay,
100% you're never folding here.
Yeah, we're just getting on the same page, one at a time.
Right.
So then I debate raising.
Okay.
And then I'm thinking, I was like, well, how much am I going to raise? I didn't buy in that deep. Am I going to ship it here? Because it's not that much more. It's not even 3x or bet. Am I all in? It's about just over 2.2 of her bet. And I was like, well, maybe I better just call. I was like, because I really only allow boats to call me. So I only call. She flopped a boat with pocket sevens.
This ended up being... Look, I will say this. I would have lost a lot more money than you on this. Because I'm definitely betting 20 on that flop with what I had. And then that turn becomes kind of weird. And then once I get to the river, I don't know. I think you can definitely make an argument for raising or calling. So it was 7, 10, 10.
Correct.
And the turn is a king. Because, I do think you could get a trip tens to call you.
Oh, 100%. I had the player to do it, too, in the pot with me.
Yeah, so I definitely think... I guess this is one where sometimes you do make this raise and sometimes you actually just make this call.
Oh, I was thinking immediately in the moment that I was going to be raising.
Yeah, this was...
I was thinking about shipping it right away. I almost just went all in. I was so close, and then I paused for a minute and really thought about it.
You played this very well. You lost, to me, the dead minimum on this hand.
Here's the only thing. Your way, if you bet 20 on this flop and she raises to 85, you're obviously folding.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
So you might have lost less, you might have lost more, but that's how I played it.
Yeah.
Here's a pretty interesting one for you. I'm under the gun with pocket kings. I bet 15, I get 3 callers. 4 ways to the flop. The flop comes king 7, 7.
So you flop a boat.
One of the blinds donks into me for 20. I call, the other 2 fold.
I like the call. That's great.
The turn is the 5 of spades, bringing in a backdoor flush draw. So it's king of clubs, 7 of clubs, and then 5 and 7 of spades.
Okay.
He bets 20 again, but he only has about 120 behind.
Okay.
I only call. The river is the 6 of spades, and he then checks.
So this at this point would be a jam, or?
I did jam. I put him all in, and he just snap called, and I was good.
Okay, I think I raised the turn there. I'm not sure if it changes anything, but I think I do that, but it's to make the jam to kind of because I think if he calls that turn, it's now he's completely roped in, which obviously it seems like he was regardless if he's snap calling there.
Yeah.
Did he show what he had?
I did not see.
Okay. It's well
I
played.
think he might have just had a king.
I mean, the biggest thing is just to get the stack in there when it's that short. So, good job getting the stack in there.
And here's one where I battled against that same person who flopped me dead on the first hand. I have king 8 of spades. I believe it was in the big blind. The flop comes 8-8 deuce rainbow. And this is one where I got to look back at my cards. I'm like, wait, do I have an 8? I do have an 8. Yeah, right? She bets 5. I only call. The turn is the 6 of hearts. She bets 20. I only call.
This is kind of a weird way to play this.
Um,
So, if you're not going to raise the flop, I would have thought you would raise the turn.
Alarm bells were going off immediately when she bets 5 again.
Okay.
That's what she did last hand whenever she flopped a boat.
Okay, I gotcha.
So, I mean...
But the flop was 8-8 deuce?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Go for it.
And then the river is the 5 of spades. Then she bets 80. I just snap call and she has pocket deuces.
I mean, this woman is just flopping boat after boat. I mean, you want to talk about you're just getting in hands with people who have monsters. Good God.
I mean, I'm just lucky she didn't jam.
I mean, you're lucky you played. I mean, just good job playing. I mean, again, this is one where I'm probably getting stacked here. I mean, I'm going to put her on at the very best, like
7-8.
like an 8, where like an 8 worth maybe a lower kicker, and most people aren't getting away from that. So I just like really good job on those two hands. Actually, you should have lost a lot more, and you ended up playing it good enough not to.
And we were deep. I mean, getting stacked here would have been real hurtful because after that first hand, I had to rebuy.
Yeah.
And then at this point, I'm already up quite a bit.
Okay.
On 2 buy-ins. So you keep that same energy. So you would have lost a bunch of money on those 2 hands.
100% I would have.
All right. Keep that in mind. So this next hand, I have ace-jack, and I raised an early position again. I get, what was it? 4 callers, I believe.
Okay.
I flop overcards, a backdoor flush draw, and a gut shot.
Okay.
With the jack. Then I bet 30 into 75. That'd be 60 into 60. About half pot. Then I get jammed on for 100 more. After everyone folds back, so it's just
right.
me.
On this one, I mean, when you were telling me on this, I just could not understand what was going on here because, like, I will bluff into some pots where like a flush draw or something, but I mean, you flopped like basically nothing in a multi-way pot. I just thought this was very much just a check give up.
Yeah. Instead, I called.
I mean, once you told me he raised and you called, I completely am just baffled. I do not know what is going on
I'd
here.
seen him go all in with like middle pocket pairs and stuff over and over again, twice.
Okay,
but I mean, and I was also those 2 hands had put me on tilt somewhat. Not gonna lie, and yeah, I just called and I did not win. So
that is the nature of it.
He flopped a set. So
I mean, so you're drawing damn near dead. You got to turnouts.
I could hit my gut shot.
Oh, you could hit your gut shot.
Yeah.
Oh,
But that's the nature of gut shots. I didn't hit it.
yeah. That's 16% of the time you're gonna be happy about that bad play.
Okay, exactly. Then the session is great, but I ended up squeaking out a pretty good little profit, $100.
That's pretty nice. And I mean, like I say, $100, not great, but I mean, on a session where you probably should have lost.
Well, especially dodging all those bullets early.
Yeah, it's so that was really great. Speaking of dodging bullets, I just got back from Paramount tonight, and you want to talk about me mine was just not great play on, like, I had One bullet where I was in there with King 8 suited, probably in a hand I shouldn't even be playing because I think it was up against a raise. And this is exactly why you shouldn't be playing, is I flopped a flush draw. I think someone bets, I call, another player goes all in, that person calls, I call. It wasn't all in for a ton, and I'm like, well, I'm getting tons of odds. This great odds to call here. So I make the call. It checks all the way down. The other guy had the ace high flush draw. So if we spike a diamond, I told him, I'm like, you're stacking me. I'm never getting away.
God, man. I mean, I've had that happen. I mean, obviously, we've all had that, but I mean, it's such a relief whenever you see that and you're like, oh, God, this could have been a disaster.
Yeah.
Because you're sitting in your head, all you're thinking is like diamond, 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 diamond. And then it doesn't come and you're disappointed, but you're so happy.
Oh, yeah. It was
I've had something like that happen at 101 Katy, where I was like, oh, I would have flopped a boat. And then the guy turned over a bigger boat, and we were so deep.
God.
He flopped like aces full of deuces. I had deuces full of aces, but I folded pre-flop.
Some of those folds are exactly what kind of make you. I mean, it's just folding those that, where you don't see, if you seen, you'd have lost a ton of money. The other one I really dodged. It was a double board bomb pot. I know these don't translate well to the podcast, so I'll just give the summary. I have ace queen in my hand. One board comes queen queen 6, rainbow. Usually I'd still be kind of scared here, but there's also a 6 on the other board, making it basically like if this person didn't flop quads, I'm good.
Right, he'd have to have literally the only combination of pocket sixes.
So someone bets out, I pot it. Everybody else folds. This person calls. Now, he's not that deep. I think it was only all in for like 150 or something. And nobody shows, and they run it out real quick. And I had also had a 10, spiked a queens over 10s boat on my board. And then he shows me pocket sixes where he flopped a flop boat and set. And I was basically drawing very slim to a chop, and we end up chopping. So, I mean, just got so lucky on that one.
God, could you imagine if that was for way more money, too? I mean, boy, that one could have been so hurtful.
Oh, because you know how those bomb pots, they inflate the pot so much. So, yeah, 100%. So those were two very narrow misses I had. These are a little more the interesting hands that kind of made or break the session. I have pocket queens. I'm in early position. I raised a 10, get 3 callers. The flop is ace high with 2 spades.
Do you have the queen of spades?
I don't think I do. It checks around. So the next one, the turn is a spade, like a lower spade. You're making a flush. The big blind leads for 15. I call. The big blind here, to let everybody know, he's the only one who can really have an ace or a flush here, because he would have checked in flow. The other two would have played their hand behind me straight up usually. So, but that being said, it's 15 into a decent sized pot. I've got second pair. I don't know that he has an ace. I call. I definitely did not have a spade now that I think about it. The other players fold. The river's another spade, putting 4 spades out there. And I've got pocket queens, no spade. Big blind checks. I decided to turn my pocket queens into a bluff. And I'm like, well, this guy's played this like he probably has an ace here. So it's probably not the ace of spades. So I bet 50, and he folds.
I wonder if you bluffed him or not.
I think so. I think he probably has I think he probably has an ace here.
It's funny because a lot of players, or at least when I started off, I never thought that those four cards to a flush were good bluffing cards, but they're actually so good because it is basically like if they either have a good spade at that point or they're folding.
Yeah, it's exactly. Well, when he checks the river, I mean, he's never doing that if he has if he got to his high spade. And when I call the turn, I could call that turn with a lot of like king of spades or something like that in kind of drawing because I was getting great odds. So I felt like it was a good in the moment bluff. I'm not great about turning hands into bluffs that have showdown value, but this is one where I thought this was a situation where it really worked out well.
I mean, yeah, definitely.
This was an interesting pocket jacks. I raise pre-flop to 10. There's 4 to the flop. The flop is 6-7-4. Not a great flop for me in a very multi-way pot. I did not raise 10 because that wouldn't have done that. I think I raised to 15 here. I think there was a limp behind me. But we go 4 to the flop. A player donks 20. I call. I don't love this flop, but it is. I still haven't overpaired. It still could be good. Another player calls. The turn is a 10. Not my favorite because it makes the open-ended straight draw for 8-9. But it does check around. The river's a jack, giving me a set of jacks, but on a very connected board. Player in late position bets 20. I still feel like I have too much value to just call here, and I raise to 60. What do you think of that?
Yikes! You want to talk about the thinnest value you're going for?
It's well, I was like, I can get 2 pair maybe to call, lower
Yikes.
sets or anything like that. So
I was thinking about only calling, but I guess as played when it checks so much like that, I feel like you gotta go for some value here, right?
That's what I thought. I thought when it checked the turn, I was like, well, I mean, how many people are just checking their made straight there?
Yeah, because at first glance, I was like, I'm just calling because it's just such a crummy board. But then once you brought up raising, now I'm kind of liking that.
Yeah.
Because I think most of the time I would just call. But now I think you kind of sold me on this.
I raised to 60. Player does call, and I'm good.
Yeah,
So
that was really good value there to go for.
yeah, I kind of enjoyed.
I guess
that.
once he checks that turn, you gotta be good, right?
That was kind of my thinking. I was like, well, I think he might be capped here to like 2 pair to a set, and I think he might still be he still might call those.
Yeah, I guess I'm still shell shocked from my last session where everyone just had it every time.
Oh well, if you had done any of this your last session, you're just getting stacked. It seems like. I have one. I'm not going to go over this hand, but it was really nice. Just a nice little one too. It's everybody. There's a bet. Like a ton of people call. I have Ace King and make it 90, and everybody folds.
What? It limped and you made it 90?
No, it was a bet, but there was a ton of calls. It was like 15.
I thought you said the whole table limped, so you made it 90 at 1-2. I was like, what are you doing?
I mean, you know what one? You know those ones, man. They're valuable. No, it was a nice squeeze spot where I picked up like $60, almost uncontested. The only other hand that really was kind of interesting here, a player straddles, and then there's a call. I make it 20 with pocket 9s. Player calls, and then the straddle makes it 60. What do you do here with pocket 9s?
Okay. So you made it 20, you said, and he made it 60?
Correct.
How much or how deep are you?
So let me see. I must have been like about 440.
I'm just folding, but
Okay. I call. The field caller calls, and because I put 380 effective to the flop.
380 effective. I'm definitely folding. 60 pre-flop.
The flop is Queen 6-3. It checks. The first player checks. The 3-better makes it 45. I'm like, well, it's 180 in the pot. I've got second pair. I think this is a call.
Sure.
Okay, I
I
mean,
mean, I don't know. It
Yeah.
seems like this is one that's destined to be off the rails.
Yeah.
I mean, all right.
okay. The other player folds. The turn is a jack. He checks it. He checks in the dark, actually. And I was like, I might bet here. Like, I mean, that seems like an ace-king thing. And then a jack comes on the turn, and I'm like, well, he would check in the dark with pocket jacks here, thinking I have a queen and stuff like that. I check it. The river's a queen. And it goes check, check, and I beat 7-7.
That's enjoyable.
Yeah, it was so that was like, I thought I think like calling the 3-bet hands always lead to kind of like an interesting situation, especially with a hand like that.
Well, definitely because they're less played, right? Like we have less of them in our sessions.
100%. The same player, I have Jack 10 suited, Jack 10 of diamonds. I bet 20. I think there might have been a straddle for me to bet that. Goes around to him. He 3-bets me again to 60. What do you do there?
Again, how deep are we? That's the only thing. That's my only question.
I think fairly deep. I think it was like probably about. I probably started the hand out with 500, 550 maybe.
That doesn't seem that deep for this.
Well, no, I mean like. Well, I mean, do you even want to be that deep? I mean, Jack 10, I don't know what I'm really hoping for. I mean, it's not like it's like, unless I hit a straight, I'm not sure I even want to be that goddamn deep.
I can tell you exactly what you want. Ace, king, queen.
Yeah.
Preferably diamonds.
Uh,
I don't know. I think this is still... I mean, I don't know if you're deep enough to do this. I mean, I think it's a fold, right?
So what I've been doing, I'm not saying I've meant to run this in before the podcast, just in one of the simulators to see what it said. But I've done on some of these that are 3-bets. What I'll do is I've put some of the Broadway calling cards that are suited into my calling range and folding the offsuit ones. Jack 10 should be a fold because you are just so dominated by so many other Broadway hands.
Oh, yeah.
I do make the call.
You're just a calling machine this session, huh?
I'm a calling machine. I hit a jack. Once I hit that jack, I'm not going anywhere very easily. He leads for half pot. Once I hit the jack, I'm calling, right? Because now ace king, ace queen, I'm beating and all of that.
Yeah. I mean,
I did have a backdoor straight draw.
Who's to stop you from calling?
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like if they put any amount of money in your calling.
Yeah, it seems to be the deal right there.
I mean, 3-bet pot, top pair, crummy kicker. Let's do this. All right, so you call.
This is where I like to live, man. The turn, what was the turn? It was a pretty...
So you better say a 10 for this hand to keep going.
It was not a great turn. I forget, but he ends up betting 60 on like kind of a blank turn, I think.
Wait, was it a good card or a bad card? You just said it was a bad card. They said it was a blank.
It was a blank. Well, I mean, I think it was just a random card. I mean, just like, we'll call it 5 of clubs.
Oh, okay. But definitely not an overcard to the jack. If I was thinking an overcard, what you're going to say at first when you said a bad card.
I'm like, an ace, and I still continue.
That's what I always thought you were about to say. I was like, what is happening?
Yeah. He bet 60. I mean, now I'm getting very good odds. I mean, I end up making the call.
I mean, this guy listened to last week's podcast where I just told you if you have a better hand, just keep betting small and Clint will keep calling.
Yeah, that might be it. Yeah.
I mean,
tell you what, worked like a charm.
I was going to say, you better have won this hand. This is just gone off the rails.
The river's a king. It goes check, check. And he shows over a queen jack for a jack with a better kicker. And that's basically where I ended the session right there. I mean, I feel like when you're in a 3-bet pot calling top pair shitty kicker all the way down, that's about time to get up.
What happened?
Yeah, it was a... Well, I mean, like, once you make that call, you're definitely calling the flop bet, right? You're just not hitting a jack and just being like, well, I'm just folding, right?
I mean, sometimes when he bets, I mean, when he's betting the turn, that's really the truth serum here. Where, I mean, I'm really hoping to see it check there on that turn.
Oh, I mean, trust me, you and me both, but that's not what happened.
Well, I mean, I
He
can
bet that.
I can chalk up him betting the flop as like a C bet, and I can hold on. Once he bets the turn, I mean, I'm definitely not looking to play for this amount of money with this holding.
Yeah, neither was I, but that's where I was. I end up taking after including time into my
If
call.
he would have showed you his cards, would you have called anyway?
Maybe.
I mean, it seemed like nothing was. You seem like you're on a mission that hand to
I mean-
get to showdown.
This guy, I mean, I don't know. I don't like to be bluffed. He might be showing me something, doing a magic trick or something. So I end up making a profit of $115 on this session. Nothing great, but it's nice to end up with a profit at any point in time,
100%.
especially when I'm calling down with hands like that.
I was about to say, I mean, always great to win, right? That's basically the moral of the story.
Yeah, we don't cover a ton of tournaments. A friend had me go to the Texas Card House Friday, which I do think is probably one of the best one day daily weekly tournaments in Houston. The 15,000 guarantee at Texas Card House that literally gets up to well over. It seems like 20,000 every single night. It goes up on Friday. This is, I mean, literally, like, I played one of the best hands I've ever played, followed by the biggest punt I've ever played. So I 3-bet I do nothing for the, like, first, you're super deep stacked in this tournament. So I do nothing for like 3 hours and then end up picking up some pots and everything. And I've got a decent amount. I end up 3-betting ace king.
Okay, I like this.
Okay. Get called. A 3-bet into I think it was a raise, like a multi-way, because it was a gigantic to the flop. And one player calls. I completely miss. I have the king of hearts, and it's all hearts. And I whiff everything else. He checks to me. I bet. He goes all in.
So it was 3 hearts on the
3
flop?
hearts on the board. He goes all in. I start thinking, I think it was, I'm like, well, I've got the king of hearts.
I say, trust me. After last time, we know you're calling.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, my fold button is broken.
I was about to say, you do not have to tell me that you called. We know.
Yeah.
Or the thought process that led to it.
Yeah. It was well, he bets, like, I think I bet like a third pot, and I think he goes all in for just over pot. Are you calling here? There was no straight. There's obviously a flush out there. I did have 2 overs. So my thought was...
Do you think this was a savvy enough player to realize that when you kind of bet small there that you might be weak and he could be stealing it?
This guy seems super wreck, really.
This seems even worse.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't say it's great. But my thinking was, like, if he has top pair, I'm actually ahead here.
Right, percent-wise.
If he's got a made flush, I've still got a ton of outs. Mm-hmm. I'm still going to be, close to 1 to 3, and I'm getting decent odds. So,
say, kind of for the odds you're getting, you're never really in that bad of shape, unless you flop the ace high flush. But
yeah, that was.
I don't know. I think for the odds, I'm kind of leaning towards a call. I mean, I call with ace jack, so I'm definitely calling too. Who am I lying to? So,
I mean, the only thing I really didn't want to see was an ace high flush draw with a pair.
Yeah, definitely. I'll tell you what you don't want to see too, and with an ace high flush.
That's fair too.
There's tons of stuff you don't want to see.
Yeah, that's well, I mean, like all the pairs, I have good outs. Even if he hasn't flopped like a set, I've still got pretty good outs here too. I make the call, and I'm good with ace high. He had nothing. He didn't even have a heart in his hand to be drawing to.
Dang, that's crazy.
So everybody's like, "Holy crap!" They're like, "I would have folded. There's no way." I believed it and all that. And I don't think everybody realized the odds I was getting. But I mean, everybody's just stunned that I just called almost my entire stack in a tournament that was pretty big with ace high and ended up good.
It is interesting how it's almost more impressive whenever it's a bigger tournament than it would be in a cash game sometimes to some people, just because if you're out, you're done.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, there's no more playing. So you're not only are you risking your money, you're risking your entertainment for the night.
Yeah, I do feel like every hand, like, just, it's, it seems like it maximizes.
Like, it shouldn't matter, right? Like, why does it matter that this call was only worth, what, $300? And if you'd made the same call for $1,500 in a 1-3 game, this still seems pretty impressive. You know, it's weird how that kind of factors in there.
Oh, it's very weird. Oh, it's definitely weird, like, from, like, how, the tournament hands go from cash hands. They're just completely different. So I am pretty proud of this. I mean, one of the better calls I've ever made. And I'm feeling pretty damn good about myself. I've got a good stack. I just, you know.
So it's like you just all met the new chip leader.
Yeah, I'm feeling frisky, feeling good. So it folds around to me to the button. I have 6-8 of spades. I'm like, I definitely feel like this is open from the button. I bet and get 3-bet. Like,
okay. This is definitely a fold from the button.
I fold.
First time all podcast. Good.
Yeah. So it comes around to me again, and I get pocket fives in the cutoff. Folds around to me. I raise. Goes to the big blind. Fold. Goes to the big blind. He 3-bets me. Me and you, it seems like one of the leaks we share is when we get 3-bet multiple times. A lot of times we don't, go to card distribution or variance. Seems to feel like we're getting targeted.
Yeah, 100%.
And almost never are. I mean, it literally just lives in our heads.
Yeah, but every time I've thought this, I've always left with no money.
Yeah.
Because guess what? I get to see, like, aces. So, kings.
So, I mean, what goes through my head is I can't just fold these people all night, even though it's happened twice.
And your chip leader. Now you got to start bullying back.
So, I choose pocket fives to go into a massive 3-bet pot. I mean, you want to talk about a punt. I mean, because, like, if you are going to make this, I mean, you have to do something that's going to at least flop well. Like, if you don't flop a 5, where are you at?
With an under pair.
I mean, that's exactly where you're living. I make the call, which is probably just, unforgivable call.
I have a Jack 10 hand I'll tell you about later, but...
yeah, no shit. So, it comes 10 high. The guy bets pot. I have like 30,000 more chips than pot. And, again, this could be a fold.
It's possible, yes.
Yeah, it's possible. I mean, I'll go with this. I had the right to fold, but I did not have the ability to fold.
Trust me, we know. So if there's anything we learned on this podcast this week, you were not folding.
So it goes to my hand, like all the 3-betting hands. You can have ace king, ace queen, ace jack suited, king queen suited, and I'm like, well, I'm beating all of them. I'm here. We've got an SPR of 1, so because I was a dipshit. And it's called a 3-bet pot with pocket fives, but I'd have an SPR of goddamn 1. So I'm like, well, I'm all in. Well, I mean, dude literally snap calls. I mean, it looked like Phil Hellmuth in the chat when he does that call. He's got pocket aces. I'm drawing to 2 outs. So
funny.
So yeah, great hand followed by, I'm just a piece of shit poker player.
And that's all those girls on the dating apps will see.
Yeah, exactly. Just this guy hemorrhaging money with pocket fives. So I actually was left with just a few chips and ran that crap all the way back to just bubble. I mean, it was just going all in, but those were super sad to hit a home run just to like strike out when the pitcher throws the ball at the dugout. So that was great.
You ever think, how do we even have a podcast?
I mean, I think how do I have a poker bankroll? Literally have to look at my poker bankroll tracker every day to even believe I'm a winning player. Don't understand it. I mean, all my thing is people must be so bad because I should not be. So that was a whiff of a tournament on my own. I mean, the poker tournaments are variants. No, that's just all me.
And then you raised up the point that I didn't even think about, was if you don't make that play, how deep that run could have been.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Because I ran so great after that, and all those hands still would have played. It's not like I got money because it was shorthanded. Like, all of them were, like, big hands versus bigger hands where I just did better. So, yeah, 100% would have, it was kind of what could have been type thing. But
I mean, that's the nature of that. So.
Shit happens.
100%.
So I only have one other session. I went to Vivid, I went to the private game and ended up playing cash for a couple hours. We do the first hand I end up with Queen 10 and I called a straddle from early position. We were short-handed. Like normally I'm not going to make this call with two Broadway cards like this. But because it is short-handed, I feel like I can go ahead and make a call. The flop is 10 Jack-Jack. I bet 8 into 25, and one person calls. The turn is a queen. I'm like, well, it's unlikely this person has flop trips. I think they're more likely to have a 10 here. So I bet 20. Do you think I should be betting here?
I don't mind it.
I mean, I still, gained equity over a 10, like a random 10.
Yeah, I think so. I don't mind it, especially if you're going to bet small like I know you're going to.
Yeah. I bet 20, he calls. River 5.
You ever think about betting 20 again?
It's exactly what I did.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I bet 20. I feel like it's a 10. I feel like a jack would have raised. He calls and shows king queen for a queen with a better kicker. So
wow, that's disappointing.
Yeah, it is one of those things that you do have to value own yourself every now and then, or else you're not going enough. I felt like that was a time where I can justify value owning myself a little bit.
Yeah, that's not outrageous.
So I end up with pocket kings. One of the big action players bets 15. I 3-bet to 45. Another fairly decent action player calls. The flop is queen 5-4, 2 spades. So 45, 90, 135. I bet small, as I'm known to do in these spots. I bet 45 and both call. So now this has gotten to be a pretty big pot. The turn is the 6 of spades. Not a great card to see. The flushes get there, but only have 135 left in what is a massive pot now. I go all in for 135, and they both fold.
What?
Yeah, it's well, and here's the other thing is, you want to talk about we were talking about my image in this game.
Well, we'll bring this up next podcast. It'll be an interesting topic.
Okay, but it's going to come into play right here, right now.
All right, well, go for it.
So the action player folds ace queen for top kicker. The action player folds that, which I was like, oh God, my image is way too tied up in here, which is weird because I've done some bluffing in there, but I was like, oh, that's definitely value I should have gotten there.
Yeah, goes to show for showing bluffs how important. Just because you've done some bluffing doesn't matter to them unless you get caught or show it, right?
That's true. And for the most part, I've been really good about getting away with it there. So.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And yeah, they're just, like I said, we'll talk about your whole image, how you can kind of play into your image and knowing your image next podcast.
That's probably a good, that would be a good.
Say it's too long of a topic to break out at 55 minutes, but.
Yeah. There's one other hand. I end up with 6-7 of spades, call a raise, and then get 3-bet to. It was big. It was like 100. It was like I think 100.
God.
Problem being is the raise was like to 20, and then it goes call, and I'm like, well, it's now $80 to win about 600.
Probably calling. I mean,
I just make the call. I mean, definitely gambling here a little bit, but I make the call. The person behind me makes the call, and I flop a 7. I mean, it's not top pair, but I do have backdoor flush and straight draw.
I mean, this is gonna be such a disaster.
I mean, when the person goes all in, I mean, it's now like I only have like 140 behind in what is now a.
I mean, you're probably calling with like pocket deuces here.
Yeah, I mean, really, in all honesty, it's just if I have any outs at all, and I figure like a 7 is live, a 6 is live, and the backdoor draws are. I'm just calling it and hoping. I mean, knowing you're going to lose most of the time, but it's probably profitable in the long run.
I mean, the longest, but I mean, I understand you. I mean, this is just you're here now.
So I call, and it runs out. I miss everything, and someone takes it down with pocket kings, meaning that my 6 or 7 was live. So that's good.
Yeah, no, I mean, like you said, you're going to lose it a ton of the time, but I mean, once it's like $100 to win all the money. I mean, it's worth that shot for sure.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah, I definitely agree. I end up losing 220 in the game. So it's
not the worst.
Yeah, not the worst. I mean, it's a game where I've really had a good run in, and it was just bound to happen.
Well, I guess on that note, this concludes the Texas Poker Podcast. We'll talk to you next week.
That was the Texas Poker Podcast. Go ahead and rack up, add time, and we'll see you next week.